Welcome to Solutions with Courtney Anderson. I am Courtney Anderson. As always, I want to let you know how much I appreciate you joining me today. If you have any questions, concerns, feedback, show suggestions, don't hesitate to go to CourtneyAnderson.com and share those with the world and myself. Today we have a show that's part of our Joyful Art of Business series. And of course, the Joyful Art of Business is one of the overarching themes of everything that I do and the consulting, education, and speaking practice. And the idea here is that it's not enough to just go out and focus on one discrete aspect of my professional activity, right? How much money I made, what goals we accomplished. I should look big picture holistically and ask, what's my return on investment in terms of how I feel? And that may sound a little hokey, but it's really important that we have a positive emotional, psychological outcome. And I just labeled that joy. Why not? So the idea here is that we're practicing this joyful, positive art. I believe that anything we do professionally is an artistic endeavor. It's creative. It's unique to how we express ourselves. And I'm going to stick by that, of business. And specifically, this is a show that is dedicated in reinforcing a topic that I can't even imagine how many times I've discussed it in all the different programs I've done over the last 15, 16 years around the world. And our specific topic is, why do people do what they do? Because they want to, and they are allowed to. Why do people do what they do? Because they want to, and they are allowed to. And one of the reasons I said that this is a topic that I can't count how many times I've discussed it and applied it as part of a solution set is because it's something that I use for a big picture framework for so many substantive areas. So if you ask me anything from a management perspective, right, so managers want to talk to me about their team members and staff members, and they'll say, why was the person late? Why was the person, rude to a team member? Why was the person disrespectful? Why was the person submitting really low quality work? Why was the person mean? Why was the person yelling? Why was the person crying? Why was the person forging documents? Why was the person drunk at work? Why was anything you ask me, literally anything you ask me, I'm going to put it within this framework. Why were they doing it? Well, they were doing it because they wanted to and they were allowed to. That's why. If you talk to me from a team member perspective about supervisors and leaders and managers of an organization, why didn't they tell us what was happening? Why weren't they more transparent? Why didn't they have better communication? Why were they dishonest? Why did they violate their fiduciary duty? Why were they drunk at work? Any question you ask me, I'm going to give you the same answer, because they wanted to and they were allowed to. You ask me about your coworker. Why is my coworker bullying me? Why is my coworker mean to me? Why is my coworker a liar? Why is my coworker trying to take credit for my ideas? Why is my coworker stealing things from the refrigerator? Why is my coworker spreading gossip about me? Because they want to, and they're allowed to. It also applies outside of our work environment. So why did I go on a great date with someone and they never called me back? Because they wanted to and they were allowed to. Why did someone dump me from a 20-year friendship by text message? Because they wanted to and they were allowed to. Why is my neighbor so weird? Because they want to and they're allowed to. We can do this all day. Why is my lawyer awesome? Because they want to and they're allowed to. Why is my dog tearing up my shoes? Because they want to and they're allowed to. Now, that may be offensive. And sometimes when we have these discussions, people say to me, well, how dare you equate what we do as humans with animals? Because at a big picture conditioning perspective, which is what this is really about, it's similar. It's not exactly the same, obviously, because there's different capabilities. But if we talk about children, people, when I used to practice law full time, and I had people who had their children in, legal trouble, right, juvenile criminal cases, and people would say, the parents would say to me, why isn't my kid going to school? Why is my kid cutting class? Why is my kid having fights at school? Why is my kid always suspended? Why is my kid abusing drugs and alcohol? Why is my kid lying to me? Why is my kid breaking curfew? Because they want to and they're allowed to. If you ask me about a senior, so I've done a lot of work with seniors, and I did a lot of legal cases in probate and estate, and I did a lot of work with guardianships with people who are elderly. Why is my great-grandfather so mean? Why is my great-aunt so silly? Why do they call me names? Because they want to and they're allowed to. My argument is, whether it's a 2-year-old or a 100-year-old or your boss or your coworker or your team member or your customer or your wife or your best friend or your cousin or your next door neighbor or the guy at the grocery store or that weirdo on the freeway or your chihuahua, it's similar in the framework. And the framework is that people get caught on the why, and they'll get so caught on the why question, they'll waste all their time on it. So instead of a manager fixing a challenge, which might be, that people are not submitting their work by the due dates, or they're submitting poor quality work, instead of dealing with that, they just get stuck on this why. Why was that one person the one that was late all the time? Who cares? I don't mean that flippantly, like who cares about them. What I mean is, why someone does something is something that they can answer. I can't answer it because I'm not them. So when people want to dialogue with me about it, I can give you, my own suggestions based on what you tell me or what I observe. I think might be some of the motive or what's going on in their head, but only they really know. So the person to ask is them. You have to ask them, why did you do this? Now, sometimes they can't articulate. Sometimes you're talking to a young child, they can't really articulate it, right? Certainly when you're dealing with animals, although some people actually do work with their animals to a point where they can communicate, with different training signals and language, but most people don't have that sort of heightened relationship. They can't tell you. And here's the weird thing. Even if you go and ask a 45-year-old assistant manager at your office, they probably can't tell you either. Because so much of what we do in life, we don't take the time to sit quietly with ourselves and think about it. And what do I mean? Think about what? Just think about us. What are we doing? I ask the question when I do training and education programs, almost always, somewhere at the start of a program. I ask, why are you here? And I don't, again, ask that just to be funny or silly. I do get a lot of answers. People say, I'm here because it's mandatory. It's mandatory that I'm here. My manager said I had to come to this. Okay, that's not what I'm asking you, right? Because here's the deal. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to come to this job. You don't have to come to the meeting. You don't have to come to the training. You don't have to do anything. How do I know that? Because other people don't do it. There are people who were told to go to the meeting. They don't go there. Some people might lie and say they were sick. Some people might actually be sick. I don't know. There are people who were told to turn their work in on time, and they didn't do it. There are people who understand, that it's cruel to change their phone number and hide from someone that was their, friend or someone that they knew for a long time. But they did it anyway. So you can't tell me what you have to do, because that's not true, because there are people who don't do it, which is the whole reason why we have these discussions. I wouldn't be somewhere talking about any kind of business problem or challenge or any type of legal issue if everybody was doing what they were supposed to. You can't say to me, oh, well, I'm, driving this way because I have to. It's the speed limit. Well, that's a lie. It's a lie, because lots of people who don't drive the speed limit. I understand that's what you're told to do. I understand that's what the rule says. But I'm telling you not everybody does it, because if they did, you wouldn't need a legal system. Honestly, and I've taught this in classes over the years, right, when it's sort of more abstract, philosophical, ethical questions. If everybody just followed the moral right thing to do, you wouldn't need a legal system at all, because there would be no speeder. There would be no drunk driver. There would be no rapist. There would be no graffiti vandal. They wouldn't do it. You wouldn't need managers at all. You don't need managers, right? The managers to manage resources, you don't really need that. If everybody just took care of their own resources and did their own job and put the customer and the organizational goals at the forefront of what they were doing. You do need leaders. You're going to need people that have the vision and are telling us where we're going and big picture and all this kind of stuff. They're creative and they see things that don't exist, and they're looking at the macro. But you don't necessarily need all the layers of people to go tell you what to do. You don't need lawyers. You don't need prisons, right? That's just because we got people who don't do what we all said we were supposed to do or what we agreed to or whatever the society said. And then when they don't do that, you have to spend all this time and money going around. And some people spend a lot of time and money trying to figure out why. And that would be someone maybe who's a sociologist or a psychologist or anthropologist. That's not my area of expertise. Now, I love all those areas. I try to study them. I try to take as many classes as I could in those different areas. Certainly, and a long time ago, I took a lot of anthropology and sociology classes when I was an undergrad. More recently, I've taken a lot of psychology classes in my more recent graduate degree programs. To try to understand these areas better. Like, I am fascinated by that question, the why. The reality, though, is what I deal with is solutions. So I'm not in a position where I'm just researching these things in a lab. I'm trying to fix things and provide solutions in real life. I'm trying to figure out what we can do to help your business unit or correct some of these poor revenue trends or address some of the challenges with morale, improve your engagement. I'm trying to see what I can do to fix your legal problem, right? That's my job, is solutions. I'm trying to fix it. So it's secondary to me in that setting because I don't have the time to delve into, the psyche of the why. It's just not appropriate because there's an outcome that people have hired me to address. And that's what I'm going to try to do. It's not a great analogy, but I've used it in some of my classes and grad classes. It's sort of like if you go to the hospital, right? And there's a medical doctor in the emergency room. You come in and you have, apparently, the doctor looks and sees that you've broken your leg, right? Now, the doctor could sit there and wonder, why did they break their leg? And get into a long discussion about, okay, you were drunk and you were dancing down the stairs and you only had one shoe on and there were some, baseballs and other fun fiesta events, that were on the floor, and there was glitter, and there was also a slippy floor, and so you were doing all this at one time, and of course you fell. So somebody could sit there and ask you, well, why were you dancing? Why were you only wearing one shoe, right? And get into the why. But if somebody did that at the hospital, the doctor, then people would be hysterically angry. And they would say, it's not your job right now to talk to me about the why. I understand, right? I shouldn't have done this. Your job is to fix it, right? My leg's broken. Treat it. Set it, fix it, give me a cast, do some x-rays, what other tests you need to do, give me some medication. That's your job, is to fix it. And so my job is to fix it. It's not that I'm not interested in the why. I just don't, it's not part of what I do professionally. My job is to fix it to the best of my ability or to figure out how to stop it from happening again. Another analogy I use is because people ask me this all the time, right? Especially when I used to teach undergraduate students. So they would say to me, well, oh my gosh, I could never be a lawyer if I had to defend someone that I knew was guilty. Which is weird. I almost never heard somebody say to me, I could never be a lawyer if I had to prosecute someone I knew was innocent. Like, no one really ever says that. And I understand why, because in the media and in movies and books and stuff, you always see the exciting thing of, oh, I'm the defense lawyer, but I know my client is a horrible fill-in-the-blank criminal. They're a drunk driver and they're a child abuser and they do bad, horrible things, or a murderer, right? And yet I have to go in there just for money and defend them. That is not at all accurate. And in my perception, which, I try to explain to students, again, I'm hired to represent my client. If you went to the emergency room at a hospital, right, and somebody had used and imbibed so much alcohol that they were literally about to die. You can die of alcohol poisoning. It's not unusual at all. Again, the medical professionals are not going to sit there and get into some long, drawn-out discussion about why you did that. Why did you voluntarily take that much alcohol and put your life at risk and almost kill yourself? Now, they may refer you to other experts to be able to help you, psychologists and things like that in the aftermath, but in the immediate, they're going to treat the symptoms and try to fix this current situation and stabilize you. That's what I'm trying to do. I'm not there to make a decision determination whether it was right or wrong what the person did. It's not my place. What I'm there to do is make sure that the legal system is working correctly. Are the police following the law? Is the prosecutor following the law? Is the government doing what they're supposed to? That's my job. Which has nothing to do with actually what the person has done or not done. My job is to make sure the system is working. If you don't have defense lawyers, then governments just do whatever they want to. So my argument is, what I try to explain to the students, it's not about, quote, hey, you don't know what somebody's done. In movies and TV and everything, it looks really exciting and glamorous. In real life, when you do law, mostly you just file paperwork. If they showed a television show or a movie about real life law, it would be so boring because you just mostly sit around and do paperwork. And then every once in a while, you go to court, and like every couple of years, maybe you'll have a trial. It's 2% of cases, somewhere around there go to trial. But on TV, all the cases go to trial because that's interesting and fun. In real life, you don't get to do that. You just do paperwork, and then you go to the court, and you talk to people about settling the case and things of this nature. Again, my job is to uphold the system to make sure the government's doing their job. If I'm the one that's representing the plaintiff, if I were a prosecutor, then my job is to, again, make sure the system is doing what it's supposed to. These types of professional services, you're not making a judgment. You're providing the service. You have an oath. Medical doctors, healthcare providers, lawyers, we all are sworn in. We have an oath. I'm going to do my job to the best of my ability, zealously, for lawyers, represent and defend. So that's what I'm doing. It's got nothing to do with the person, and I don't know what people have done because most of the time people lie or they tell you what you want to hear, which brings us all the way to my point. So as a lawyer, as an educator, as a consultant and speaker, as an author, I've seen a fair amount of human nature. I don't have the ability to tell you why. And I don't want to have you spend a whole bunch of time on the why. I want to try to move toward minimizing or mitigating the problem. If we can fix it, great. If we cannot fix it, then let's learn from it so we don't repeat it. And then after that, if you want to spend some time trying to delve into the why, then that's fine. But I also know that the why sometimes can get people very negatively caught in abusive and self-abusive dialogue. In other words, somebody says to me, oh, I'm at work, and this one person at work, I've been so nice, to him, but every time he walks by, he kind of looks mean at me, and I think he hates me, and I don't know why he hates me, and maybe it's because I'm ugly, or because I'm so stupid, or he thinks I'm not smart enough, it's like my uncle always told me I'm a loser, and he can tell I'm a loser, and what happens is this, because someone doesn't have the answer to the why, which, of course, the only way you would have the answer is if you had some sort of foolproof way of the person being required to divulge it. And a lot of times, like I told you, people don't even sit with themselves in silence long enough to be able to figure themselves out. If you ask people, why did you do that? A lot of times they can't even give you an answer because they've not even thought about it really. It's just reactive, it's habit, it's bad choices, it's acting out, of emotion or anger or fear. So instead of people getting caught in this why did they do that? Why were they looking at me like that? What did it mean? Okay, look, here's the deal. I don't know. You don't know. When you turn it on yourself in a negative way, oh, it's because I'm not good enough or smart enough or, nobody likes me and it's because what my, great uncle always said, I'm dumb or whatever. My fifth grade teacher told me I was a horrible person. Okay, look, none of that has anything to do with the current situation. Other people behave for their own motives. Other people are not going to make decisions because of you. They're going to make decisions because of themselves. Now, sometimes it'll fit where your motives and their motives fit together, and it's a win-win, right? But they're not thinking about you. I've done other programs about this, right? What do other people think of me? Nothing, really. They think about themselves. And then depending on who you are in their lives, right? Are you their spouse? Are you their sibling? Are you their best friend? They'll think about you more. But it's always going to be, they're the star of their own movie, right? Just like you are. You think about yourself because it's your life. Now, there are other people that are important to you that are close to you in different times in your life, sometimes throughout your entire life. You think about a lot because you care about and love them. And they're important to you. But you think about you because you're you. That's normal. It's healthy. to a certain degree, right? You don't want to go too far where all you think about is you. You don't think about other people at all. You become narcissistic and unhealthy. But why someone did something, I don't know. You don't know. It does not have anything to do with you. So stop all of that. Why? I can tell you that the framework of what happened is this. They had some motive. Maybe the motive is even hidden to them. Maybe it's some latent repressed motive that they haven't even themselves owned or become honest with. I don't know. That's something they'd have to work out individually and then work out potentially with some professional, either counselor or spiritual leader or something of that nature. That's beyond anything that anyone else can do for somebody. Okay. I can tell you this, that their behavior was based on some motive. I call that what they wanted to. And it can be positive or negative. Or it could be something that they desired, or it could be something they were trying to avoid, right? It could be avoidance, or it could be aspirational. But no, it really is not relevant for the big picture. The big picture, why did they say the mean thing to you? Why did they gossip about you? Why did they intentionally turn the work in late? Why did they come to work drunk? Why did they tell everybody that you looked ugly? On the positive side, why did they give you the promotion? Why did you earn the award for the best employee? Why? Because they wanted to, and that part you have to leave with them. What do I mean by that? That again is they have to work on that. Why did they want that? I don't know. You don't know. You can, if there's somebody very close to you in your life that you deeply care about, then you may need to reach out to them and ask them, what's going on? How can I help you? Right? We've talked about this in other programs. If someone is important to you, they're your friend, they're someone you love or care about, then the test is their happiness is your happiness. So of course you're not going to enable someone to be self-destructive, because that hurts you. If they hurt themselves, it hurts you too. So you could reach out to someone that you're close to and try to help and be of assistance. How can I help you? How can I help get you the services and support that you need to begin to understand yourself better and make choices that are good outcomes for you? That's what you healthy, good people, good meaning, let's just call it ethical people do. But you have to leave it with them. You can't go in there and project your own fears and apprehensions or your own narcissism and ego, right? I got it because I'm the best. I got it because I'm the smartest. I got it because I'm the prettiest. No, stop. No one is ever the smartest, prettiest, but whatever, because it's a transitory thing. You might be the richest person in the world for a few minutes or even a few years, but it's not going to be forever. You might have been the most beautiful person in your homecoming class, but maybe that was 20 years ago. I don't know. It's transitory. Your internal qualities of how you treat yourself and other people, those are long-lasting. But your external qualities and temporary status issues, those aren't worth anything. So don't project, again, your own issues externally. Other people do what they do for their own motives. You're not really sure what they are. If there's somebody that's important to you, then I strongly encourage you to outreach and be there for them and see what you can do to work with them so that they can begin to treat themselves well and make themselves happy and content. And then that, of course, makes you happy and content because their happiness is your happiness. If you're in a situation where it's someone that's not that close to you and you really don't even know, then you got to leave it with them. Why did that person cut you off on the freeway and not signal? I don't know. You don't know. Leave it alone. Maybe it's because they looked at you and they hate your car. Maybe it's because it's the color of, your T-shirt is the ugliest color in the world. Maybe it's because they just had horrible news on a phone call that they were fired or that their beloved grandma died. I don't know, and you don't know. So stop projecting. Leave it alone. Leave it with them. Except only this part. They wanted to. Now, whether they wanted to for a reason that you think is healthy, I don't know. Right? Maybe they did it out of fear. Maybe the reason they gossiped about you at the office was because of jealousy. I don't know. But they wanted to. And that's the point when I said that when I do my corporate education programs and I ask people in meetings, why are they there? And then they tell me, it's required, it's mandatory. And it's not true. Don't give me that. You don't have to come to this meeting and you don't have to come to this job. You don't have to do anything. And sometimes people would, that's not true. And I say, okay, do you know anybody? Do you ever know a relative or friend or anybody that even though they could work and they were healthy, they just chose not to? Yeah. And I'll say, do you know anybody who, even though they knew not to violate the law, they did it anyway and now they're in prison? Yeah. Okay, well then don't tell me what you have to do. Again, if everybody did what we were supposed to do, we wouldn't need any lawyers. We wouldn't need even a legal system. You wouldn't need any courts. All courts do is enforce deals that people can't work out, right? So you wouldn't need that. If everybody who got married totally agreed and it was great, and everybody who got divorced was, very professional and calm and not violent and not reactive and angry, then you don't need a court. All the courts do is just come in as an impartial third party to try to keep society functioning. You wouldn't have any of this. You wouldn't have crime. You wouldn't need police. You wouldn't need corrections. You wouldn't need any of it. But you don't have that. You have people do what they want. Now, why they do what they want is a whole issue. Sometimes people come from violent backgrounds. Sometimes people have been abused. Sometimes people have chemical issues with their body and their biochemistry. Sometimes people have disabilities and challenges in cognitive functioning. Sometimes people have personality traits where they honestly are sociopaths and they just don't care because they just wanted to. Sometimes some people enjoy inflicting pain on other people. I mean, all of this is way beyond you and I. It's other people for them to decide. I've only asked you to do a couple of things. A, understand and acknowledge that it's because they wanted to, and leave it with them. The why part you must leave alone. I just want you to table that and just acknowledge what did happen. So they did gossip about you. They did come to work drunk. They did hide from you when you send a text message and call on the phone and refuse to answer it. That did happen. Just acknowledge it. And for some reason or motive, whether unhealthy or healthy, latent or obvious, they wanted to. Just leave it there. Right? It may be that the person that you thought you were deeply in love with, or that you are deeply in love with in a romantic relationship, and they dumped you by text message, and then they were mean and never talked to you again. It may be that they are emotionally overcome with how much they love you, and they're frightened and scared of the feelings they had. Okay, that's a positive. It could be that they were already dating, or married to somebody else and lied to you all along. I don't know. You don't know. Stop. Stop with the why, because it'll, again, people can get very negative, and the worst thing that you can do, and I really want to emphasize this, do not turn this back on yourself. Do not turn this back on yourself and get into this thing about, oh, it's because I'm not good enough, I'm not pretty enough, I'm too tall, I'm too short, I'm too small, I'm too large. Stop. It's absolutely abusive, destructive, inefficient, inaccurate, and why are you doing this? So leave it with what happened. Accept and understand that they wanted to. They had some motive. Okay? And then the last part is the only part that I ever deal with in trying to fix things, that they were allowed to. So that's where the healthy and all the structure and leadership comes in. So you're a parent, you ask your child to pick up the toys off their floor in their room. They said they would, but you went in there later and it wasn't picked up. Why didn't they pick it up? I don't know. Maybe they were sleepy. Maybe they had something going on at school where another kid made fun of them. Maybe they were super excited about an upcoming field trip. I'm not sure. Maybe they just don't like you and they felt like they weren't going to clean up the room because they don't want to do anything you tell them. None of this matters really. At this moment, again, we could table that and maybe later we'll go through some counseling, work with some experts to try to help figure out what we can do to help our young person. But in the interim, what you're going to do is you're going to change what they're allowed to do. You're not going to allow them to continue to leave the stuff on the floor. So that may be that until they pick the stuff off the floor, then they're going to be on timeout, right? The worst thing you could ever do, though, is go yourself and pick up the stuff off the floor. I do a whole bunch of programs about that where you take away the ability for somebody to be held accountable for their actions, and you destroy all of your credibility as a potential manager or leader. So all you're going to do is, okay, I see this stuff is still on the floor. It needs to be off the floor by the end of today. And when that happens, then you're going to be able to come and, take part in your video games or go outside and play or whatever it is. I don't care how you do it, with the positive inducement or you tell them they're going to be in timeout or whatever, but there has to be something where you change what they're allowed to do. Because that's all we can do. And that's why we have lawyers and courts and police officers and correctional professionals, because we've got to try to deal with what people are allowed to do. I can't stop you from what you want to do. I can only control what you're allowed to do. So I'm going to go pay taxpayer dollars to have a police officer so that when somebody does go out driving drunk while texting at 120 miles an hour in a school zone, that their police are going to catch them and ticket them and maybe arrest them. I'm trying to change what you're allowed to do. That's what they're doing. That's what the whole system is for. What system? The legal system, the justice system. It's all about the allowed to. and at work and businesses, then that's what managers and leaders are doing. It's what they're allowed to do. And a step further, if it's a peer, so you're not their manager, but they're gossiping, they're rude, they're bullying you. I've done a lot of other programs about how to handle, harassment, intimidation. But you also have to stop them from being allowed to. You have to teach them they're not going to be able to do that to you. There will be a consequence. It might be that you use your formal process at your work with human resources. It might be that you speak to them in a language that they understand clearly, that it's going to stop, or there's going to be another consequence. Or you're not going to cooperate with them on other work products or whatever, but you got to get the message clear to them that they are not going to be allowed to do this. This behavior is not going to be allowed to continue. Now, you can do it again with positive inducements. You can do it with something negative they want to avoid, but you got to do something to control what they're allowed to, and that's all you can do. And bringing it back to the example I gave earlier of someone that you really care and love, you see this all the time, right? With someone, they're in distress. They're making self-destructive choices. They're abusing themselves with any substance or activity, right? They're not eating. They're eating too much. They're abusing drugs and alcohol. They're abusing fitness. Who knows? People do all kinds of things, right? And somebody who loves them is not going to enable them, right? Enablers allow them to keep doing that self-destructive behavior. You give them money, or you make it easy for them to keep doing a self-destructive thing. When you care about somebody, you stop enabling them, because what you're doing is you're not going to allow them to keep doing it. It's very difficult to go out and obtain, the amounts of either food or drugs and alcohol or whatever it is somebody's trying to abuse themselves with if they don't have the money and resources and you don't enable them and give it to them. They can still be mad and say horrible things to you, but you're going to stop allowing them to do it. And hopefully over time, that'll give you the ability to go and work with somebody about the why and help them begin to see that there are different ways to make choices and that they're worth more than this. You don't enable people because it's cruel. What you do is you don't allow somebody to make choices with the negative outcomes. It may be a negative outcome to you. It may be a negative outcome to them. It may be a negative outcome to larger segments of society, but that's the part you focus on, than not allowing them to. And you don't, ideally, it's not judgmental about the why, because you don't know. And a lot of times we don't know. Sometimes these things are deep within our past, deep within our psyche. So, very simple, except that they did it because they want to. Table it, leave it with them. Never, ever turn it back on yourself with some elaborate and, projection of why. It's not about you. Leave it alone. Stop that. It's abusive to yourself. And then controlling what they're allowed to, right? In a healthy, positive way to stop enabling the poor choices. And that's it. Problem solved. Life is easy. Things are great. We've tried to address some of this. So again, as always, I really do appreciate you joining me and taking time to be part of the program. And if you have any questions, feedback, or ideas, don't hesitate to come to CourtneyAnderson.com.